So growing up as a deeply, deeply introverted person, probably the shyest person in my entire high school year group, to the point where I would almost get like bullied and mocked because I was so reserved. Like I'd just be sitting at my desk just getting on with my work, and people would just shout at me from across the classroom, "Why are you so quiet? Why don't you ever say anything?" Like stuff like that was regular for me. I think all of this led to me believing that my introvertedness is kind of a curse. That because I am more quiet or reserved by nature, every single possible life outcome out there, like in my work life, my social life, my romantic life, everything is going to get worse because of the fact I'm introverted. No one's ever going to take any notice of me. People are going to look at me like a side character in someone else's life. And thankfully, for some of the reasons I'm going to share with you in this video, I no longer believe that to be the case. Because of what I've learned over the past 5 years as an introvert, yet still having some of the best, most fun social experiences of my life, I can confidently say that you don't have to change anything about your personality as an introvert in order to be considered one of the most fun people in the room. You don't have to change a single thing. And that's really reassuring for me to even say now, and hopefully it will be to some of you who maybe like look at this part of yourself as like the way I did, as a bit of a curse. But I'm going to give you 3 tips in this video to come across as a lot more fun to talk to and engage with as a more introverted person. So let's get into it. So the first point I want to make is learning to give value back to people instead of taking it away. So I think the biggest mistake I made growing up as an introvert was almost believing that I had to force people to take notice of me. So my friend group in school was all about like who could make the group laugh. Like if you were the funniest person, then you'd be popular. Everyone would like you. No one would take the piss out of you. And the rest of the guys in that group just seemed so comfortable being loud, being the center of attention. And, you know, at my core, I wasn't really that type of person. But I kind of forced myself to behave like that because I thought this is the only way I'm going to kind of fit in with my group. Otherwise, they might kick me out. And I do things like make myself louder, take up more social space, exaggerate my reactions, which probably came across as like really goofy and kind of stupid, but I do anything to try and get a laugh out of the group. I needed their approval, their validation. But the reason this never worked was because people could tell that actually I'm looking for something. I'm not really providing anything here. I'm looking for their approval. I'm seeking something from them. I'm taking value instead of giving it back. So, I mean, what do I mean by value? Value could, at a surface level, be something like status or money, something I could provide for someone else. But beyond that, it could also just be vibes. Do people feel good for hanging around me? Do they leave a conversation with me feeling energized, feeling like positive and happy? Or do they feel drained? And I think the type of person I was back then, who sought approval, who tried to make myself something that I'm not, I think that came across as like kind of needy and taking energy and value from people instead of giving it back. And I think based on what I've learned over the last 5 years, the best way to actually give value to people is instead of trying to entertain everyone else, it's entertaining yourself. It's trying to have as much fun as possible just on your own. So a really good example of when I tapped into this for one of the first times was on my first ever solo holiday to the city of Porto in Portugal. And I was really, really anxious going into this trip because I was staying in this social hostel full of people from all across the world who I've never met before. And even though it's a social hostel, it's designed for me to meet people and get talking to people. It kind of dawned on me that if I don't make any friends or no one likes me here, I'm just going to be really lonely for the next 5 days, and I'm going to have to explore this great city all on my own, and that would be kind of depressing. But within like a couple of hours of me arriving, the hostel like organised this big trip for everyone staying there to go down to this food market, and we're going to all get to know each other. And again, feeling really anxious going into this, but I managed to get talking to a couple of guys, like a few people that are like really easy to talk to. And I come out with like a handful of friends by the end of it. And towards the end, these guys who I've just met, they asked me, do you want to go and get a drink after this? We're going to get some wine and we're going to watch the sunset. And I think about going. But then I see this group of girls, this group of like 3 girls, and I know they're from the hostel because I've seen them before. And I'm kind of thinking, I could take the easy option here and go with these guys, or I could push myself to another level. I could really like force myself to be social here. So I ended up going and sitting with these girls. And again, it takes a little bit for me to open up, but for some reason, maybe just like the fact I've warmed up with these guys before, the excitement of being on a holiday on my own for the first time sets in. I had such a fun and like lively conversation with these girls, and there were 3 of them. One was Mexican, one was Italian, one was Irish. And for some reason, I've just entered like my most playful mode. Like I'm bantering with them. I'm like lightly taking the piss out of them. I think one of these girls, I'm like making fun of her accent slightly. I think I told them that like by the end of the holiday, I'm gonna like rank their like countries based on how much I like these girls or whatever. I'm gonna like rank them like worst to best or something. And even though like some of these things could potentially be pushing it with people I've just met, they actually end up like really enjoying it, and they're like teasing me back, and it's just a really fun lively conversation. And this is one of the first times I can remember where my intention going in was not to impress them or get them to like me. I was purely in like the mode of conversation where I'm just trying to have a good time. I'm trying to make myself laugh. I'm saying something almost as soon as it comes into my head because I find it funny. And because I'm not seeking anything from them, I'm actually the one giving the vibes. They're enjoying it. They're having fun. They're taking part. They're giving it back to me. And I actually ended up like going on a date with the Mexican girl as well. Like this was the start of something between us. And yeah, I think for me, this is where I learned that if you just focus on entertaining yourself, you are providing value. You indirectly end up providing energy and value. When you're having fun, it's contagious and people want to join in. So prioritize your own fun, and that is the best way to provide value. So the second point I want to make is learning to be a little bit spontaneous. So one of my biggest problems when I was at university and navigating the party scene was people just kept on forgetting me. Like I'd meet people at a party. We might have like a good 15, 20-minute conversation. Yet I could meet them at the next party and it was like they had no recollection of it whatsoever. I remember there was this one girl, and yeah, it was the case. I'd met her at this party before, and we talked for like a fair bit of time, and then I met her again, and she didn't remember me, and I actually called her out on it. I was like, we have like met each other before, and this bitch actually said like, maybe you're just not memorable. Like she actually said that, and I remember being like a bit offended at the time, and then maybe like doing a bit of self-reflecting and thinking like, maybe she's right. Like maybe I am just not that memorable, which is kind of cold. But I think one one of the things where I was going wrong was my conversations just felt a bit too scripted, a bit too safe. I would rely on the same questions. Where are you from? What course do you study? What accommodation you do? But I imagine these people probably would have heard them like 10 times already at that party. What's distinguishing me from everyone else here? Where am I showing my personality? And I think part of that is also, me being afraid to go off topic, and maybe I don't know what to say. I don't trust myself not to make it awkward or have a bit of an awkward silence. So I kind of don't want to take risks. I don't want to take the conversation in any crazy direction because, I'm a bit worried that I'm going to make it awkward. And I think what I've realized since then is, first of all, people don't want to stick to the same boring conversation topics, because part of the fun of conversation is it starting in one place and then going in an unexpected direction. It finishing completely different from where you expected it to. At least that's what I find fun. And the second thing is, it's like, even your unpolished dialogue, even you fucking up and making mistakes, or just saying something a bit weird that kind of comes out of nowhere, that's still you showing personality. For me, that's better than just playing it safe from being that's being an individual. It's not being like an NPC, it's showing who you are. So I think once I realized this, something I really started practicing is kind of just thinking on my feet, just not thinking too much about what I say before I say it. And a great example of this is, and this is going to sound like a little bit weird, but this is like a confidence ritual that me and my brother have. So every once in a while, we'll dress up in these fancy suits and go down to London. We'll invent these characters and do social dares and challenges one at a time. So one dare we might do is we go into a jewelry store and we convince them that we're wealthy investors and we want to try on your finest timepiece. Or, he might try and get into this fancy bar and he'll make him check the guest list for his name and all this shit. This is all stuff we've done. But by far the most challenging thing we ever did was this thing I'm about to tell you. So we are in this really busy area of London. I think it's called St. Paul's Cathedral. And there's all these bars, and it's a Thursday night. And if you know about London, everyone who works in finance in London works from home on Friday. Thursday is the last office day of the week, and everyone goes out to the bars, basically. They go out and socialise. That's where they do their networking. And me and my brother, we asked this guy who's dressed up all fancy, he looks about the same age as us, what's this? What's this big group of people at the bar? What are they doing? And he said, oh yeah, we're from Bank of America, we're graduates, we're on the graduate scheme, we're training to be analysts or whatever. And we're like, oh yeah, shit, that's pretty cool. And then this guy goes off and we say to ourselves, right, so now that we know who these people are, let's assume this guy's identity. Let's pretend that we're one of them. Let's convince them that we're these people. And I was so fucking anxious about this because this just took a lot of balls. But we go over to this one kid, this Japanese kid, and we're saying, oh yeah, we're on the scheme too, and he's asking us all these questions oh, where do you work? And I swear to God, I've never had to think faster on the spot. Imagine if I'd have even delayed for a second, it would have looked weird and he would have guessed. But we're saying, oh yeah, no, we work for this guy, work for John. And he's like, John, I don't know him. Then he keeps pushing. He's like, but which department are you? Which department? I'm like, and my brother's distribution. And he's like, what? Distribution? And then he's like, yeah, distribution of capital. My brother just comes in with the save of a lifetime. And this guy's like, oh, what, so you work in DSC? And we're like, yeah, we work in DSC. And then he's like, oh yeah, no, him, they all work in DSC as well. Guys, come over. So suddenly we're surrounded by this group of people and we're somehow managing to keep it going. We almost get found out so many times, but then eventually it gets to the point of they believe us and we're just fitting in and we're just having like good conversations with these guys. And something about that experience, it didn't end up going anywhere. We kind of just dashed after a while. But something about that experience, looking back, going from that feeling of pure like terror and anxiety to how I felt after, I just felt so fucking alive. So fucking alive. And part of that was the spontaneity of the situation. The spontaneity of it all, like having to like think on my feet that quickly, to be creative, and just the fun that I was having. It was like after a while, a bit like what happened in point one with those girls. I eased into the conversation. It was like my creativity just kind of came out. Like I was able to just think of anything on the spot, like throw anything out there. And yeah, I think, hold on, let me read my notes. I'm getting off track here. The spontaneity of the experience, saying all these crazy things, just throwing them out there and having it go well, having these guys believe us, allowing myself to be imperfect. There was just something so great about that. And the moral of the story is not to go around like lying to people about your identity. But I kind of thought, like, why can't I inject this fun, spontaneous energy into my conversations? You know, I've had people tell me in the past that I'm not memorable. But how about like not being so afraid to play it safe? What about like if I, in normal conversations, I throw out unexpected jokes, unexpected questions. I try to distinguish myself from other people and think on my feet, to practice that skill. And that's kind of what I've embraced ever since then. I try to like, generally if I get something funny come into my head, I just say it. I don't think too hard about it. I don't filter it too much. Again, going back to the last point, I just try and have fun. And spontaneity is part of that. It's like almost bringing this like silly, crazy energy into the conversation. Going into topics that maybe seem like a little bit unorthodox because you find it funny or interesting, or following your curiosity, asking people questions that you really care about. Maybe I haven't explained this the best, but it's finding a way to inject that spontaneity, that like spark into this conversation. So the third point I want to make, and I'm not going to spend too much longer on this, is actually learning to be more selfish. So this is one of my favorite stories, and I have told this before on the channel. But when I was in university and getting to know the girl who would end up becoming my first serious relationship, we weren't going out at the time, but she was living there. We ended up living in the same house, which is like a different story entirely, man. But I was in the kitchen watching this video, and it was this video about Spider-Man, specifically Spider-Man like villains and stuff. So if you don't know this about me, this has been one of my biggest passions since I was a kid. I love Marvel. I love superheroes. Before all of the films, before all of the MCU, which is kind of shit now, I was reading the comics. Like even now, like I could fucking, maybe I should make a superhero channel. Like I could genuinely talk about superheroes for like 10 hours straight. And I was watching this video on Spider-Man, and when she came in, I kind of became like a bit conscious of her being there. Like, is she going to see me watching this video? Is she going to think it's kind of nerdy? Because maybe I'd like hid this from other people in the past because I was worried about like them, what they'd think. But she's just getting on with her own thing. And she comes and sits next to me. And at this point, I'm just so caught up in this video that I feel like I have to share something with her. I'm like, yo, do you know who this guy is? You know, like that's the Kingpin. Like, you know, like, did you hear about this? Do you know about like how bad he is? Like, this is what he did to Spider-Man in this one comic. Like, fuck, like, that's absolutely diabolical. Like, I just got so caught up in the video and like enjoying it that I didn't even realize I was just fucking dumping like a load of nonsense about a Spider-Man villain onto the girl that I liked at the time. And afterwards, like, I kind of regretted it, and I was like, oh shit, like, have I just blown my chances with this girl? But a couple of days later, this is really funny, I go into her room and I actually catch her watching the same video about Spider-Man villains. And I'm like, what the fuck, why are you watching this? And she actually said, it's because I wanted to be able to talk to you about this. Like, I could see that you're really passionate about it. And that kind of made me excited. And I liked how passionate you got. And I wanted to know more. And that was really sweet of her. And like, we did end up together. But it kind of made me think, like, looking back, like, how many other interests have I had that maybe I've been dismissing, that maybe I haven't shared with people because I'm worried that they're not conventionally interesting. And I think this lends itself more to one-on-one situations. And it's not going to work for everyone, but I think maybe we've been led to believe that, you know, we have to be really polite, that we have to sacrifice our own interests to just talk about what the other person is interesting, or we need to let the other person do most of the talking and we're here to listen. That the other person's interest should come before our own. I think it's that mentality. Maybe that's just a thing like in this country, but I think it's that mentality that's kind of led to me holding back like a lot of my passions, a lot of things I want to talk about. When really, if you're passionate about something, like if there's a particular topic that really gets you out of your seat and you can talk and talk and talk about it, if it's at that level, even if it's fucking bird watching, you will be able to make it sound interesting to someone else. Anything in the world, if you are passionate about it, you'll be able to make it sound interesting. It's like podcasters, like, I don't know, like Andrew Huberman. He can make a video, like a 1 hour video about like, I don't know, getting sunlight in the morning, like a really mundane topic, sound interesting because he is passionate about this topic. And I think in some ways, we have to learn to be a bit more selfish in conversations, to not push our passions and our hobbies and interests down, I don't know what I'm trying to say, push them down in favour of like only talking about what other people are talking about, or keeping it to really safe topics like what I was talking about before. I think on some level, we need to lean into our interests to steer conversations towards things that we know we're really passionate about. Because that passion is contagious. Other people end up feeling even just 10% of that passion, and we've energized them. Maybe you're kind of seeing like the link between all of these 3 points. I think the common denominator is just having fun, having authentic fun, not trying to create any type of impression, and letting other people experience that fun by proxy, automatically. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave this video there. Apologies if it's been a little bit of a long one, but I think this is even something I feel really passionate about. And hopefully that's coming through in this video. But yeah, I think introverts in particular could really do with showing more of their interest, showing more of their personality, not being afraid to like show that to the world. But yeah, I'll keep it short and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, man.